friends, or howdy to those of you who may be watching this in the future, because there's no one here yet. Oh, we got one. I do apologize that I had to push back the time a little bit on this stream. I wanted it to be earlier for those of you who may be on the East Coast or over yonder across the pond. I know this is late for y'all, and for anybody who may work a normal job on Mondays, I know Sunday nights are chill time. That's family time. That's unwind time. So Sunday evenings are probably not the best time for a live stream, but here we are. And this is when I had to do it because life is a little bit crazy right now. So welcome to anybody who may be joining, or howdy to anybody who may be watching. Before we get started, pardon, I have to give some shout outs. I got my little list here going on, and I don't know how y'all feel about it, but on live camera, I feel like my eyes are looking all over the place on the screen, seeing if anybody's jumping in, making sure I'm in the shot, and I feel like my eyes look like they're bugging out. So I like to have the sunglasses on. Not to mention, my future's too bright. I got to keep these bad boys on. So shout out anybody who may be joining, shout out anybody who may be watching this later. I always gotta shout out the lovely folks over at Ninja Pirate and Christina. I have to shout out those of you who are supporting on Patreon. Much love, Patreon fam. Am I angled the right way? Yeah, that's the one. Shout out. Oh, make sure I didn't lose the stream. No, we're good. Shout out to the folks at Santa Cruz Fire University. Many of you know that's where I first played with fire, and I've got a lot of love for the Santa Cruz community. Also got to shout out my boy Danimal, because I have a list here of tricks that we're going to hopefully go over towards the end of the stream, and one of them is, I think synonymous is the word I'm looking for, synonymous with the man Danimal. If you aren't following at Danimal in Hawaii, I highly recommend that you do. And one last shout out for my cats, my gray cat, my black cat, my outside cat. I love my cats. And shout out to y'all's cats too. And you know what? Also shout out to my amazing partner Tish. That's who made the Power Prop Girl shirt here. That's who made this lovely hat here. You can find some of these things on With Lucid Eyes Etsy. And there aren't any cat hats up there right now, but they are on the way, I promise you. Charles Pin not included. I lied. One last shout out for the boy Charles. Much love, Charles, and anybody else who's been very touched by his music. So I think that's going to be it for shout outs. A little bit of what's been going on with me. If you're on the Patreon, you're already well aware, but I finally ditched my airport job. It's been a good 4 years there, and I don't recommend doing this. I have never done this before. Anytime I've quit a job, I always have the second job and work both of them for a little bit just to make sure I'm in and I'm going and it's all good. And this time I did not do that. I had enough and I up and quit that place. However, I did start training this weekend to be a school bus driver. So I'm going to be the yellow bus driver. But yeah, because I am doing training for that job and also training for another new job starting tomorrow, my schedule's a little hectic right now, and that is the reason for me pushing back the time of this stream. I'm hoping by next month I will have my schedule locked in and I will be able to move the stream up to a better time. And yeah, what else has been going on with me? Part of getting a new job for me means I had to quit certain things that I like doing. So yeah, take that as you will. I do believe that we all need some kind of vice in this crazy world. So I've got some sangria here. I'm typically not much of a drinker, but like I said, I need some kind of vice. I also had to do some medical checks for the new jobs and found out that I have hypertension, which is something I had never heard of before. Basically something caused by high blood pressure, likely due to stress, and the fact that I was up to drinking 3 cups of coffee a day probably did not help that either. So I've quit certain substances. I am down to 1 coffee a day and am going to be giving that up very soon too. But for now, I'm chilling with the sangria. Cheers, friends. And so if you missed last month's live stream, basically how this thing goes is I like to spend the first half, give or take, going over some topics. I've got some fun topics ready for y'all. And then the last half-ish, I'm going to be going through some fun tricks. No real particular order or theme to them, just kind of random fun tricks that I like. And if any of y'all are jumping in, you can always feel free to chime in, stop me, and we can go over whatever the heck you want instead of whatever I've got written out. That is always fun for me, and always fun for me to be with y'all in any type of way, whether it is here on the live stream, on a private lesson, on the Dragonfest live workshops that I've been hosting every year for 3 years straight, I think now. Or if it's hanging out with y'all in person at a festival or otherwise. It is always a pleasure and never a chore to be with my Flow fam. So that is going to be all for my little intro. We can jump into some fun topics of discussion here. First thing is festival schedule this year. Last year, I had a real chunky festival schedule, as a lot of you are probably aware. This year is quite the opposite. I have 2, possibly 3 festivals planned for this year. The first one is coming up quick in April. I will be at Flame. It's in Georgia, right? I just bought flights, so I should know that. But I'm not teaching or performing or anything. I'm just going to be there having a good old time. And if you see me there, come say howdy ho, and let's geek out on Dragonstaff or whatever the heck else you want to geek out on. Other than that, I will be at the UNTS Festival here in California, headlining by G. Jones and my boy, Super Task. Oh, can you see it? No, you cannot, but it's there. And I'll be bartending at that because I learned last year that I make more money. Not that it's all about the money, but at this time in my life, it is a very important thing so that I don't end up homeless. And I make more money on tips bartending at a festival than I do for teaching and performing. And it's a pretty big shock to me. You would think that playing with fire on stage with a crowd of people in front of you and very expensive electronics and equipment and speakers behind you, you would think that they would want to make sure those people are compensated, to make sure that a fire prop doesn't go flying into the crowd or into the electrical equipment. But hey, it is what it is. I will be at the UNT bartending, slanging drinks. I think I said earlier, but drinking's never really been my thing. I don't like hard alcohol. I don't like beer, but I like my sangria, and I had a darn good time bartending at the UNTS last year, so I'm gonna do it again. And lastly, it's looking like there's a good chance that I will be performing at Still Dream this year again. I have not gotten a confirmation, but I am definitely hoping. So that one's a little bit of a tentative festival for me. So that is my festival for this year. I am taking a break this year from teaching at festivals. That is mainly for a couple of reasons. The first one is I had somebody copy one of my workshops and offer it as their own, and it was a big drama thing. And I guess it just kind of breaks my heart that someone that you consider a student or even a friend would just copy your workshop from start to finish, word for word, trick for trick, and then call it their own, and then call you a liar when you bring it up to them. So that hurts. What hurt more was another person who took that workshop with me at Great Lakes Flow last year. They attended the workshop, and it seemed like they really enjoyed it because afterwards they posted some groundwork to their social media story and tagged me and gave me a shout out for teaching the workshop. And when I brought it to that other person's attention that they may have copied my workshop, whether it was subconsciously or not, that other person I'm talking about, I'm trying not to name names here, decided to jump in the comments and said that I don't own that workshop, and was very much supporting the person who took my workshop. So yeah, it's very disheartening for me to see that fellow flow artists and people in the community would not just take a workshop like that, but then also support somebody taking a workshop like that. So yeah, that is one of the major reasons why I am taking a break from teaching at festivals. Other than that, again, it comes down to money. I have no problem with, not getting minimum wage even for teaching at a festival. But getting absolutely nothing for teaching at a festival does hurt. And I know people like to say, festivals aren't for making money, they're for having fun. But, tell that to FAI. Why are they charging so much for tickets and not paying their instructors if it's for fun and not for money? Things that I hate to be the one to point out, but I'll be the one to point it out because I know a lot of people don't want to speak up. You're more than likely going to lose opportunities for speaking up, which is why I didn't say anything for so long. But I no longer care, so I'll be the one to speak up and take the heat for it. It's all good. And yeah, so that's why I'm taking a little break from teaching at festivals this year. I do plan on applying to teach at some flow festivals next year. Those will be festivals that are not under the FAI umbrella. So that is that. That is why I will not be teaching at any festivals this year. That being said, if you see me at a festival, I will share whatever the heck you want to learn. And you already know I teach privates, and I got the Patreon and YouTube and all that fun stuff. So I don't feel like I'm missing much. I still get to do what I love and share what I love and teach and all that good stuff without feeling like I am being taken advantage of. So yeah, that is that. Next up on the itinerary here, I like that word, it makes me feel fancy. Itinerary. I wanted to talk about Dragonstaff trick names because unlike I feel like other props, Dragonstaff trick names are all over the place. And even if you feel like you know the name of a trick, more than likely someone's going to be like, actually, that's called this. And it's a mess. So I've been kind of thinking a lot about Dragonstaff trick names and how they're broken down. And basically what it looks like to me is that they are broken down one of four different ways. One way is describing what is happening. Things like a forearm roll, it's rolling on your forearm. Things like, I guess you could even say a foot spin or a palm spin, it's spinning on your foot or your palm. Pretty straightforward. I wish all trick names were like that, but they are not. We are all over the place with trick names in the Dragonstaff community. The second way that I see Dragonstaff trick names being broken down into is what it looks like. Like a matrix, it looks like, you're in the matrix and cheating death. It looks like the staff's going to come up and chop your head off and you duck your head, so you cheat death. And that's, I guess you could say that's what looks like is going on. And I like that way of naming Dragonstaff tricks as well. The third way that I've noticed is naming them after people, probably the most famous of them being the Steve or the Minimal Steve. And I don't know Steve. I don't know if there is a Steve, but people promise me that there is a Steve. So I'm sure he's out there. Shout out Steve, because we are milking your tricks. And that also goes for, there's a trick here called I've heard it called a slapback Joel. See if I can get in shot here and show that. No, that's the wrong way. So something like this. I heard that called a slapback Joel. I'm not really in the shot. There we go. These guys here. Woo! Okay, take a Dragonstaff to the face. I can do that. I'm used to that. Let me move this out of the way here. So I was calling these a forearm roll trap, because it's like you're doing a forearm roll and then trapping it. But yeah, apparently they're called a slapback Joel. And I also named a trick after someone. Let's see if I can get this in shot too. I named this Megan's Foot Spins because I had not seen a name for it, but I saw it from somebody named Megan. I don't know if it's going to be in shot, but something like that. Ooh, these socks are not helping. Basically a foot spin, catch, foot spin, catch, foot spin, catch. Megan's foot spins. So those are 3 ways that I see Dragonstaff trick names being broken down. The fourth one is just completely random. There are certain trick names. I might even throw a chi roll into that category where it's like, how did we name it this? Why is it called this? I couldn't tell you, but that is what it's called. Things like transdolums, hypermans, all that kind of stuff. I don't know where a weave would fall into this category, but yeah, if anyone wants to drop a comment, if there is another kind of style of trick name that you see out there, but those are the 4 that I kind of see. Is 1 is what's happening, 2 is what it looks like, 3 is after the person who popularized it or maybe created it, and the 4th is totally random, no rhyme or reason. So that is why Dragonstaff trick names are a complete mess. And next up on the list here is I wanted to talk about yoga and Dragonstaff. For me, yoga and Dragonstaff go hand in hand. I can't have one without the other. I understand not everybody practices yoga. Actually, I think everybody does, even if they don't know that they do. A lot of people just say that they're stretching or will be doing some sort of exercise. And I'm like, oh, hey, that's actually Trianga Mukha Ekapada Paschimottanasana. It's a yoga pose. But, you know, it is what it is. I started doing yoga maybe a year or so before I ever tried Dragonstaff. So I feel like a lot of the Dragonstaff pathways and kind of form to them are rooted in Dragonstaff poses. I see it left and right. I can hardly see a Dragonstaff trick without seeing a yoga pose in there. And once I did start spinning Dragonstaff, of course, having a background in yoga, that's all I could think about. Every time after I started spinning Dragonstaff, I'd go to a yoga class. Every pose we're in, I'm just thinking, what could I do with the Dragonstaff in this pose? So yeah, for me, yoga and Dragonstaff go hand in hand. I also, if you didn't know, I am a certified yoga instructor. I have done 2 years of yoga teacher training. I have my 200-hour certificates. And so I basically took how I learned how to teach yoga, because there is a specific way that we are taught to teach yoga, at least in Iyengar yoga, the method that I primarily practice. I basically took those methods and applied them to Dragonstaff. And so, yeah, for me, I cannot have one without the other. And let's see here, making sure I'm not skipping nothing. You know, I have one other topic of discussion that I wanted to talk about before we get into some tricks, the fun stuff. And that is, what the heck is Advanced Dragonstaff? Because we all, I'm sure, I think, I hope, could agree that there is like a beginner level, you know, things like chi rolls and cheating deaths and Superman's, aka static rolls. And then I feel like we have a huge category of intermediate tricks, traps, fountains, windmills, a lot of groundwork even. And then I would like to think that there's an advanced level of Dragonstaff. I know I have a few friends who disagree with me on that and believe that advanced Dragonstaff does not exist yet, and we are not there yet. And I like that thought because it means that we have a lot to work up to, and there's still a lot of unexplored territory. So I'm not mad at that, but I do also at the same time think that there is advanced Dragonstaff. I believe, for me, when I think advanced Dragonstaff, I think of tricks that oftentimes involve a bit of physicality, things like inversions, things like, you know, kind of crazy groundwork and foot tricks like foot beachies and things. I also consider Advanced Dragonstaff to be those crazy tricks that you can land every once in a while, but can't really do it on command. Things like the Warrior 3 kick up. That's a trick that is probably one of my favorites, and the accuracy rate for me is leveling up the more I practice it. But I guess another way to put it would be tricks that you don't really see too often, things that you've only probably seen a couple people do ever. Those to me are advanced Dragonstaff tricks. And maybe that changes with time and those become more known and then those aren't advanced anymore. I don't know if it works like that or if we just call those advanced. So I want to just open up that discussion. And if anybody wants to chime in the comments and let me know, do you believe there is such thing as advanced Dragonstaff, or is it Bigfoot? It doesn't exactly exist, or maybe it does, but very few have seen it or encountered it. Or does it not exist at all and it's still something to work up towards? I don't know. I don't have any answers. I'm just here talking shit. And that's why I like doing these live streams, even though there is currently nobody in here right now. That's okay. Like I said, Sunday evenings, probably not the best time for a live stream. And I actually don't see too many flow arts or fire dancing live streams at all, outside of on Instagram maybe, but at least not on YouTube. So maybe I'm old and this just is not the platform for it. But for me, when I first got into Dragonstaff, I did not have an Instagram. I wasn't really following any flow artists or anything like that on Facebook. So to me, the place for flow arts and fire dancing was YouTube, and it is still my favorite platform for flow arts content. Mainly because you can just search stuff up. I see people post tutorials and things on Instagram, but I feel like once they're lost, they're lost. You know, you can't really go. I mean, you can search hashtags, but you can't really just search Dragonstaff tutorial and see all that there is. So I still very much prefer YouTube as a platform for flow arts and fire dancing. But again, maybe I'm just old. Maybe I'm just old school. I'm not quite sure. So all of that being said, I think we're ready to jump into some tricks here. Pardon me. And the first tricks that we're going to go over, I want to bring it back to yoga and Dragonstaff. Also, if you haven't seen it, I posted a video on YouTube many years ago called Yoga with Dragons. And it basically kind of shows how Dragonstaff tricks are rooted in yoga poses. So I'll do a pose like triangle pose, and then I will do a matrix, and it makes it very easy to see the pose within the Dragonstaff trick. So if how do I put this? If the parallels between yoga and Dragonstaff are something that interests you, Yoga with Dragons might be a video that you will enjoy. But we are going to go over I got a nice handful of tricks written out here, but the first ones are going to be tricks that I call after yoga pose names. There are quite a few tricks that I have either learned or I don't want to say I came up with them. I'm sure someone else did it, but a lot of tricks that maybe don't have a name that I decided to name after yoga poses so that there's some kind of, what's the word I'm looking for here? So that there's some consistency, I suppose, so that you can kind of trace the trick to a yoga pose, and a yoga pose will oftentimes make a Dragonstaff trick much easier and more accessible. So I'm going to scoot my camera over. Bear with me for a moment. Oh, wait, before I do that, I have something sitting on my desk here that I wanted to show you guys. Have you ever seen a gooseberry? Because I hadn't. My girlfriend and I were at the store like years ago, and we saw gooseberries in the produce aisle. We're like, what the heck is a gooseberry? So we got some and brought them home. By the time we opened the package, I mean, we opened them the day that we bought them, but they were covered in mold. So obviously I wasn't going to eat them. So I threw them into my compost pile, and I've used that compost pile in a lot of my plants in my garden. And I am now growing a whole bunch of gooseberries. So if you've never seen a gooseberry, I think they are really cool looking. I'm gonna try to get it focused here. Focus, camera, focus. So this is the shell of the gooseberry. I know this isn't flow arts related. I apologize. I was outside before this and I saw them and I wanted to show them off. But you open up these bad biscuits here. If I can open it. And what you have is this little guy in there. Can you see him? Can you see him? He looks like a little baby tomato, a maybe not so ripe tomato. Let me get it out of here. There we go. So you remove the shell and you got this little guy here. Looks like a little unripe baby tomato. I don't know how to tell if they're ripe or not, so let's find out. Yeah, no, not ripe at all. Almost died. No, that's not ripe. But I did try one that was ripe recently, and they kind of have like the texture of a tomato, but like the flavor of a berry. Like, not that it tastes just like a raspberry, but you know, like that kind of sour, tart sweetness, but with the texture of a tomato. I'm gonna try busting open another one here, see if we can get a ripe one so I can give you a real-time description. That one's riper. It's got the texture, but the flavor hasn't come out yet. So yeah, these are gooseberries. And with all of that out of the way, we're gonna jump into some tricks here. Again, bear with me while I move my camera and make sure that I am in the shot here. That is probably the one downside about the way I'm doing these live streams, is that when I go from the chat to the tricks, I gotta do a little camera adjustment. Sorry if it makes you dizzy. No, that ain't it. That ain't it. Okay, I think that's it. Yeah, that's gonna do. That is gonna do. I love it. I love it. Okay, that went faster than last time. So, as I was saying, there are certain tricks that I kind of just started calling after yoga pose names. The first one being something I call a Warrior One roll. This is oftentimes one of the very first tricks that we learn with Dragonstaff. At least when I teach a beginner Dragonstaff workshop, it is definitely in there. And I call it a Warrior One roll because it looks a lot like the yoga pose Warrior One. Basically a lunge shape. And you let the staff roll. Well, first you raise your arms up high with the staff in your hands. Let the staff roll down the arms. Once it's reaching the armpits, bring the arms down in front of you to create a path for the staff. And there you have a Warrior One roll. I've also heard it called a body roll, but I feel like that's very vague. And in my mind, what at least a full body roll would be is if you could get that going all the way down to the feet, do a back bend into a bridge, come up into a handstand, and then let the staff roll down the opposite side of the body. And that would be a full body roll because you went all the way down the front of the body and then handstand. I'm not going to do it because I can't. And then up the back of the body. That to me is a full body roll. So this Warrior One roll, of course, you don't even have to do it in a lunge position. You can totally do it with your feet more or less parallel. But if you do not like back bends, which I wouldn't say I don't like back bends, but my back doesn't like back bends, keeping your feet not in a lunge position does make it a little less comfortable for me. And especially if you are prone to low back problems, I highly recommend doing that in a lunge position instead of having the feet kind of squared or parallel. So that to me is a Warrior One roll. Another trick that I had mentioned earlier is the Warrior Three kick up. So this to me is an advanced Dragonstaff trick. To me, of course. Who the heck am I though? So if you are familiar with the yoga pose Warrior 3, see if I can do it here. It is not a fun yoga pose for me, but it looks something like this. Warrior 3. And if you were to do that with the Dragonstaff, you can kind of come into a Superman entrance, send the staff up the arms, duck the head. As soon as it comes behind the head or neck, bring your arms behind you to create a path for the staff. Extend that leg behind you so that the center point rolls on the back of the leg. I don't really have enough space or especially ceiling space to do this in here, but I'm just trying to give you a visual of the yoga pose. So once the staff rolls down the back of the leg and reaches the foot, you could kick it up. Not like that. Something like this. Almost, but you can kind of see the Warrior 3 shape in there. Yeah, hopefully, I hope so. So that's why I call that a Warrior 3 kick up. Another example of a Dragonstaff trick. Howdy, by the way, the people jumping in. Hope you are doing lovely. And if any of you want to go over anything that I am not currently going over, feel free to jump in the chat and we can switch gears. Or if you just want to jump in, say hi, or talk shit, or whatever you want to do, feel free. This is your live stream as much as it is mine. And so another yoga pose that is really hand in hand with a Dragonstaff trick for me is a groundwork trick. Make a little bit of space here. Something that I like to call a Halasana Roll. And it is actually a pretty common groundwork trick. Stay, Dragonstaff, stay. So I don't get smacked in the head again. Thank God that was on recording for everyone. So it's this trick here where the staff goes down the legs, over the feet, and then you bring the legs kind of up overhead to let the staff roll down the backs of the legs. And then you can catch it with the hands, bring the staff over the legs. So I call that a Halasana roll because it really looks like the shape of a yoga pose called Halasana. Halasana translates to plow pose. I hate demonstrating this pose. You might think that I don't because I teach it in every groundwork workshop, but I hate doing it, but I'm going to do it. And it looks something like this. So that is Halasana. And of course, you don't have to bring your feet all the way to the ground like you're in the yoga pose to do the trick. But you can see this shape here, how it is basically kind of the root of this Dragonstaff trick. Staff goes over the feet, down the legs, and you are basically in Halasana. And as I mentioned, Halasana translates to plow pose. I don't know why The ancient wise yogis had to call that pose plow pose. I didn't come up with it, but I'm just trying to stick to tradition to make things a little less confusing. Because if every time we come up with a new trick, we come up with a new name for it, I feel like Dragonstaff trick names are going to get even messier than they are. So those are some examples of Dragonstaff tricks that I kind of think of as yoga poses. And hey, howdy kicks. Thank you so much. And welcome, by the way. Again, if you didn't hear me say earlier, if you have any trick or anything you want to go over, whether you've seen me do it or not, feel free to in the chat and we can go over that instead of whatever the heck I have written out. So another example, this isn't a trick named after a yoga pose, but hopefully you can see the yoga pose in the trick. I'm going to take off my socks so I don't slip and eat it in here because I already got smacked in the face with the Dragonstaff on this stream. I don't need to add a fall to it. But so most of us know this as a matrix. I have had many people tell me that that is actually not a matrix and that's an Andre or an Andre matrix, which I'm guessing is named after somebody named Andre. So we're going back to what I mentioned earlier, tricks that are named after people. But if you pay attention in this Andre matrix, it is very much like we're doing one of two yoga poses, either triangle pose and then to the other side, or if you don't like having straight legs and you want to have bent legs, then side angle pose. And if you want to throw a third yoga pose in that, you could also throw in a wide-legged forward bend. So to me, a matrix, or more specifically an Andre matrix, again, you have a choice whether you want straight legs or bent legs. I like straight legs, so it would basically be triangle pose. Oops, hit the wall. Triangle pose, wide-legged forward bend, triangle pose. Or with bent legs, side angle pose, forward bend, side angle pose. So yeah, hopefully you're kind of seeing why, for me, Dragonstaff tricks are so much rooted in yoga poses. In fact, whenever I teach an Andre matrix, I know nobody likes to put down their Dragonstaff to learn a Dragonstaff trick. It's just not as fun. But I always like to teach those yoga poses before teaching the Andre matrix, because if those poses are not accessible to you, then the trick is going to be a little more difficult. Not that you have to be like into yoga to do these tricks or anything like that, but just how my brain kind of sees these tricks is yoga poses. So next up on the list here, what do we got? Okay. This is something, we are moving away from yoga Dragonstaff tricks and moving on to just Dragonstaff tricks because we've got about 20 minutes left in the stream here and I don't want to bore you all talking about yoga the whole time, even though I could definitely do it. Cheers, y'all. So we are going to go over, I forgot to shout him out at the beginning of the stream, but this is a trick that I learned from my buddy Robert Tingstrom. Shout out Robert. This is a trick that I learned from him, and it's called Fantastic Dragons. Well, that's his name for it. Ooh, I almost smacked myself with the dragon again. I'm gonna have to move this dragon so it doesn't fall on me. Okay, I'm gonna move this. And we're gonna break this trick down into pieces. And all of these pieces are Dragonstaff tricks on their own too, if you don't want to do Fantastic Dragons. So first thing that we're gonna go over is something that I like to call outer arm traps. They look like this. And this serves as a really nice kind of base or intro to Fantastic Dragons. I'm basically starting with the staff, On my right arm, center point is more or less on the center of the forearm. I have my right palm underneath the right side of the staff. Left side of the staff is behind my back here. And then I use my palm to swing the staff towards the center of the body, towards the midline. So like that. And as I do that, I'm going to turn the palm from face up, because that's a nice way to give it a roll, give it some momentum, to palm face down as it comes to the midline. And right there, when the staff is coming towards the midline and the palm is face down, I'm going to bring the left palm underneath the staff so that I can do a little pass off from the right hand to the left. And now the staff is out to my left side. So center point's more or less on the center of the left forearm. I have my left palm under the staff, one end of the staff kind of behind my back. So now we're on the opposite side, and we'll do the same thing to send it back towards the midline. Use the left hand to give it some momentum. And as it swings towards the midline, it's nice to switch the palm from face up to face down to pass it off to the other arm. That'll help to keep the roll going and make it look nice and smooth. So there you have an outer arm trap. If you are not familiar with traps, essentially a trap is any trick where the Dragonstaff is kind of kept going by 2 points of contact. So here we have our it feels like more than 2 points of contact, if I'm being honest for this one, but ideally the 2 points of contact are one end of the staff underneath or on top of the hand, and the other end of the staff kind of pressing into the arm or the side of the body here. So there it is, trapped between 2 points of contact. Bring it towards the midline to switch arms. 2 points of contact. On and on we go for our outer arm trap. Now, once you're getting comfortable with these, we didn't even have to go over these first. I just like going over these first. But we can remove one arm from the equation and come into what I like to call a one-handed trap. So here, I'm keeping the palm really in front of the abdomen, palm face up, and I have the center point on the palm. And I'm letting each end of the staff press off the side of the body. You don't have to raise your arm. I like to. I feel fancy when I do it. But see, one end is pressing off of my right arm, and then pressing off of my left arm, right arm, left arm, right arm, left arm. And if you like the arm up, then it would be pressing into the right arm and then the left kind of side body or side ribs. And there you have a one-handed trap. We are still working towards fantastic dragons, mind you, but these are two trap tricks that kind of flow really nicely together. So you can go between your outer arm trap, break it up into your one-handed trap. You can throw in a little dab on them if you like. And back to your outer arm trap. And we can also add our fantastic dragons to this, which to me, fantastic dragons is a bit of a trap as well, using the legs. So let's just stick with our one-handed trap for now. I got the one-handed trap going in my right arm. I'll turn around because I know the lefts and rights can get confusing. And at any point when I have the staff out to my right side right here, kind of in our starting position, I can raise the left leg so that when I swing the staff back towards the center, I can press this end of the staff into my inner right thigh. Boom, press off, back into your outer arm trap position. Turn around, make sure you can see. One-handed trap. At any point, we want to bring the legs into the mix. When the staff's out to my right side here, I'll lift the left leg, swing the staff under the left leg to press into the thigh. Be very careful if you have, things to look out for there. And you'll press off of the thigh to send the staff back out into your outer arm trap. And that's kind of, I would call it like a leg trap, but that could also mean many other things. So I don't know what to call just that movement, doing it on one side. But to turn this into fantastic dragons, we're going to come over to the other side so that we kind of do this little leg trap, little leg press off thingy on both sides. So back to the top. We're in our one-handed trap. Staff comes out to the right side. Swing the staff towards the midline underneath the left leg to press off the right thigh. Back out to our right side, our right kind of one-arm trap, or outer arm trap, I should say. And then to switch to our left side, we're going to come back to that outer arm trap that we covered in the beginning. So we did our one leg press off, and then we're going to do an outer arm trap to come to our left side. And now we're set up to do the same thing on our left side. So we have the staff out to our left. We'll swing the staff towards the midline, lift the right leg, press the staff off the inner left thigh, and back out to the left. And we're back in that kind of outer arm trap position on the left side. From the top, one-handed trap, right leg press off, outer arm trap to switch to our left side. Come into your kind of one-handed trap, lift the right leg, press the staff off the left thigh. Boom, fantastic dragons. Yeehaw. And I always think this looks cool too if you kind of extend the arm that you're not using out. You can kind of do whatever you like with it. Bend the elbow, like I said, you can dab on them or raise the arm to make it clear to your audience that you are not even using that arm. You don't need that arm. And voila. Again, shout out Robert for this one. Fantastic dragons. This was a fun little variation that I hadn't seen before I seen him do it. And if you know me, you know that I really like bringing the legs and the lower body into the flow. I feel like it's very underutilized in Dragonstaff. We can really get through an entire burn or flow sesh, all just rolling the staff on the arms and hands. But it could be really nice to start involving the legs in any way that we can, just to switch things up. So there you have fantastic dragons. Keep an eye on the time here and check to see what is next. Okay. So I shouted out Danimal at the beginning of the stream because this next trick, I cannot do this trick in public without somebody being like, hey, that's some Danimal shit. And I'm like, yo, you know Danimal. And it's really a trick that I've only seen Danimal do until I started doing it, and my buddy Elliot also does it. So that makes 3 of us doing this. I asked Danimal what he calls it, and he calls it chitutting. And there is no one way to do chitutting. What I like about chitutting is that it is totally an individualized trick. So I don't think anybody's chitutting is going to look exactly the same. I should have showed you first what I mean by chitutting. So you can see it's kind of it's a wild trick, but essentially what's happening is you want the staff to stay kind of isolated. So I have the staff in front of the body, and it's going to continue rolling away from me. And in a perfect world, the staff is not going to be moving up and down and slanting all over the place. It's just going to stay like it's rolling in one place, and your arms and hands can freely move underneath the staff while the staff is isolated. Like I said, there's no one way to do this trick, so all I can do is offer up some tips, things that Danimal shared with me. This trick is so synonymous with Danimal that I legit had to ask him if he was even okay with me doing it. That's how much this trick is a Danimal thing. I legit asked him at a festival when I met him, like, are you okay with me doing this trick? Because it's kind of your thing. And he even said, at first, like, I wasn't really sure, but I don't want it to just like go away with me. So yeah, I want other people to be doing it too. So yeah, I don't think there's a tutorial anywhere for this. And again, I don't really know how you make one because Everybody's probably going to do the Chitutting a little bit different. I wish I had more background in actual tutting, because I'm sure that you could apply it to this and it would look really cool. But essentially, how I like to do it is keeping the staff on kind of the backs of my hands or wrists. Hopefully you can see there. And this is the one time that it's actually really helpful to have awful grip. Like, this silicone grip sticks to you really well. You almost want a really used, worn grip so that your arms and hands can just slide underneath the staff effortlessly. So I'm going to switch to my wizard grip. I think that might work a little bit better. And as I said, I like to start with it rolling away from me on the backs of the hands and wrists. And of course, I have one hand underneath the staff on each side to keep it balanced. And once you feel like you've got it going there, you can start to slide the hands underneath the staff. And of course, as I mentioned, you want it to look like it's staying still. So you kind of have to be quick about these movements. So one way that I like to do it is with the staff rolling away from me, slide my right hand towards the center and out. Oops, moved the staff a lot in that one. And then slide the left hand towards the center and back out. And then maybe you can even try sliding both hands towards the center and back out. But again, you got to be quick, or if not quick, at least have the staff very well balanced so that it doesn't start leaning to one side or dropping. Those are kind of some little basic starting points. Another thing you can do is start to kind of bring the elbows into it or the arms into it. So instead of just sliding the hand towards the center and out, I'll kind of sneak the elbow, more specifically like the top of kind of the elbow crook underneath towards the center point. Woo, I'm getting all over the place with it. Blame it on the wine. Blame it on the alcohol. Sorry, I had to do it. And again, the more you kind of switch between these things, it looks like you're really just kind of getting loose and freestyle with it. Another thing that you can do with Chitutting, something I've seen Danimal do, is you can kind of pause with one hand underneath the center point, back of the hand to be more specific. And then you can bring the hand, the other hand that's not underneath the center point, underneath that hand, and it kind of looks like it's floating there. I'll try to do that kind of more in a real-time flow kind of thing. There we go. Now I'm in shot. So at any point when you kind of have one hand underneath the center point, you can use that other hand to just freely, it's not actually really making contact with the staff, or if it is, it's very light, not really taking the roll or the contact point of the staff. Kind of swipe that hand freely underneath the staff, and it starts to kind of give it that kind of floating illusion type thing. Woo. Yeah, so something like that. Like I said, it's not one of those tricks where it's like, this is how you split time chi roll, or this is how you Andre matrix. It's like, Chitutting is more of like a broad style, or whatever you want to call it, something that you can apply. But it's one of my favorite things to come into when the music is really taken off and that drop hits and you just really want to be getting it. Like, that's when I like to do the Chitutting. You can really kind of bring the legs and feet to do more like, steps and dances with it, things like that. And it can really fit with, certain music very nicely. And usually when I'm ready to come out of the Chitutting, I'll raise the staff and give it a little leg bump or a little knee pop. I'm not sure if there's a name for that, but basically have the staff up higher a little bit, remove the hands that the center point will drop. I don't like to hit it right on the knee. That's probably not going to feel very nice, but maybe a little bit more towards the thigh, a little bit more of a cushiony area. Give it a nice little pop, and then you can go back to Chitutting, or you could give it that pop and come into whatever you like, come out of the Chitutting. So again, shout out to Danimal for this one. If you don't follow him on Instagram, it's @Danimal in Hawaii. he could not be a nicer human and super talented flow artist. Kick says red wine and Dragonstaff can go hand in hand. This is all very cool. Thank you. I honestly, I think drinking a little bit of wine and spinning is so much fun. But there was one time where I was drinking a little bit of wine and decided to spin some fire out back, which is something I never do without a safety. So I had someone there, luckily. But I was feeling it a little bit too hard, and I don't know what trick I was doing. I was doing something, and the staff smacked me right in the head. And I've never been more sure in my life that I got a concussion. So I don't drink and spin fire really anymore. But no fire, it's fun. But yeah, usually if I smack myself or miss a trick, first thing I'm like, nope, got to do it again and get it right. And that time I was done. I put the staff out, was done for the night. And the next day, like every time I'd bend over or anything, like head was throbbing. Music felt like it was way louder than it actually was. So I'm pretty sure those are signs of a concussion. So those of you who like to drink and spin fire, be careful, always have a safety, and yeah, try not to hit yourself in the head. Easier said than done. I smacked myself in the head during this stream, so definitely easier said than done. Let's see, we've got, oh boy. Well, my time says I've got a minute left, but the stream says it's got 4 minutes left, so I don't know what to think about that. But I'm gonna go over one more trick. This is something I wasn't sure what to call. I'll show it first. Really kind of getting techie, or what I think of as techie. And I had to reach out to Fabio, shout out Fabio, and ask him what the heck this is called. And he said it's a variation of a Hyperman. So I'm going to quickly go over this before we wrap up the stream. I like to come into it from a split time chi roll, and my dominant side is going out to my right. Of course, you don't have to do that. You can go out whichever side you want. So essentially, when I'm in my split time chi roll, at any point when I want to come into my Hyperman, I bring my left hand over the top of the staff, and I keep my right hand under the staff, and I push the staff out to my right side so that it kind of stays horizontal, like kind of in this plane still. And by doing that, this end of the staff that was out to my left can sneak underneath my right armpit. But as soon as I do that, I turn around so that I'm facing the staff. And just that much so far. I don't want to move too fast here. I'm in my chi roll. I bring the left hand over the top of the staff, push the staff out to my right, keeping it horizontal. And now I have kind of my right hand under the center, left hand over the top of the staff as I guide the staff underneath my right armpit and behind me. And then as soon as it's behind me, I turn around to face the staff. It's now rolling towards me. So with the staff rolling towards me, as soon as I turn around, I'm going to bring my arms up overhead and then turn around again so that I'm facing the same way I started. And if that movement seems like complicated, this month I posted a tutorial for continuous Supermans, and it'll definitely help with that motion. And howdy, welcome Charlie. Thank you so much for your really kind comment. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I know we're coming up on the end of the stream, but if there is any trick that y'all want to go over specifically, feel free to let me know in the chat, and I will do my best, because even though we're kind of coming up on the end of the stream, if there's people here and there's something y'all want to learn, I will do this all freaking night. Yeah, I have training for a new job tomorrow. No, I don't care. So I'm going to do that again facing forwards, because there's a lot of kind of turning around in this trick. I'm in my split time chi roll. I'm going to bring my left hand over the top of the staff. So I didn't mention this, but I bring my right palm underneath the staff. So instead of the back of the hand, it's the palm, so that I can guide the staff out to my right, underneath the right armpit, so it's behind me. And as soon as it's behind me, I'm going to turn around to face the staff. It's rolling towards me, kind of like a Superman. So I bring the arms up high so the staff will come overhead. Superman, and as soon as the staff comes behind the head or neck, quickly turn around so the staff's rolling away from you again, just like you started. Split time chi roll. Staff goes under the armpit, turn around, rolls towards you like a Superman. Quick little turnaround. In real time. And like I said, I just posted a tutorial for continuous Supermans, which are these here. And that really helps with this kind of motion where the staff's coming up overhead and you're turning around with it. So if that part of this Hyperman variation is messing with you, that tutorial will probably help, because I feel like this Hyperman variation is kind of like a combo between a Hyperman and a Superman turnaround. Again, I know Dragonstaff trick names are all over the place, so that might not mean anything to y'all, but that's how I think of it, at least. And I'll go to the other side. Not my dominant side, so definitely sloppier. Woo! And I think that Fabio and Brett Starr, if I'm not mistaken, have a YouTube video on Hypermans where they show a bunch of different variations and ones that are, in my opinion, cooler looking and more difficult to do. So if you are liking the kind of look of these Hypermans, because they are very common, or sorry, uncommon, especially here in the States. So I like to kind of do the uncommon stuff if possible. And if you're looking for uncommon Dragonstaff tricks, Fabio, Brett Starr, Jed Fowler, these people are like my go-tos. So shout out to them three. And yeah, I think we are a little bit past time here, so I'm going to wrap this up, I think. Thank you all so much for joining. As I had said in the beginning, I'm kind of in the middle of starting 2 new jobs right now. I up and quit my airport job, so my schedule is all over the place right now, but hopefully by next month I will have a consistent schedule and can maybe do these live streams more often, or if nothing else, at an earlier time, because I know if you're on the East Coast or, you know, not in the States, this is probably pretty late for you. This is late for me. It's 6 o'clock over here, but I'm old and I'm used to getting up early for work. So I'm used to having a bedtime and stuff. This whole being between jobs thing has opened up my schedule and also made it really wonky with training and stuff. But yeah, that is neither here nor there. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you for jumping in the chat. Much love. Much love to the Dragonstaff community and to the fire dancing community. Like I said earlier, it is always a pleasure being with y'all, never a chore. And yeah, I am hoping that I can start doing more live streams more often because these are fun for me. So I don't want to end this, but I'm going to end this. Thank you, Kix. You have a lovely night as well. And thank you, Charlie, also. You have a great night. And hopefully I will see y'all next month for another live stream. Yay, Dragonstaff. Bye, everyone.